Well, hello there, my dear children of the apocalypse. How are we doing today? Welcome back to our 52 weeks of self-improvement and welcome to the fear of missing out, also known as FOMO, but also I think we can relate it to another thing that happens to most of us men, and that is the myth of the one. The myth of the one is this idea, this concept that there's a unicorn out there, that there's a woman that walks the face of this earth that is made just for us. It's just the perfect person, the best charisma, the greatest body, beautiful face, smile, eyes, hair color, has the right career, has the right parents. There's this idea that there is this one walking around. And usually what happens is we get into a relationship with this person and then we realize, holy crap, this person is amazing. And then a couple of years down the line or a couple of months down the line, or if you're really unlucky, just a couple of weeks, things don't work out and you're like, oh my God, no, I've lost the one. My life is over because I don't have this person in my life anymore. That's one aspect of it. Another way we can look at FOMO is social media. You haven't opened up Instagram today. You don't know what your friends are doing. Maybe there's a really cool story. Maybe you've missed out on a meme. Maybe there is this amazing news that just broke. There's a new item that's been announced by your favorite company. Maybe it's, about I watch Formula One or your football match, we have the fear that we're going to miss something out. And I had this conclusion, and ironically, it boils down to something very rudimentary, but it was a couple of months ago, I was watching a friend's Instagram story. Now, this friend is an entrepreneur. He's trying to get into business. He has all these ideas. And he shared a story of a lady who is an influencer. And I think what she does is she sells clothes. She has like a clothing brand, something like that. She's an influencer, really. And this was during a period where in our country, a lot of the people working as police officers, teachers, firefighters, farmers even, there was a lot of protesting. And what this woman said on her story, she wrote a big paragraph and she said, well, I as an influencer, I have my own, business, and like, when am I going to go and start protesting for my own rights? I don't get paid vacation, I don't get this. And I was reading that and I got really frustrated. I got very, very triggered, and I responded to my friend who was sharing her story. And I said, listen, man, I get it. I get the aspect of what she's saying, and I understand why you reposted it. But if the firefighter or the police officer, if a teacher, if all these people that work for the public good disappear for a day, for a week, for a month, you're going to have problems. Because when your house is on fire, you need the firefighter. When somebody robs you, you need the police officer. When there's an accident, you need somebody who's going to go there and clean up the mess and help you fix your car. But an influencer who's selling clothes, in fact, like 99% of influencers, if they disappear, nothing happens. Like, let's say I'm an influencer, and in a way I am. I sit here, or rather I stand here, and I talk to a camera about things that I find important. And then a certain amount of people, a couple of hundred, watch this and are being influenced by it. Yes, there is a value to it. There is an information to it. But if I was to disappear today, if I just, boom, vanish, I'm no longer here, and I don't do it for a week, does anything really change? Does your life really get any worse with that? You could argue, yes, you could argue that with this particular lady who's selling clothes, that if she just disappears, then I can't buy clothes from her. But as you realize that through a Maslow's pyramid of needs, that's not that essential. You're going to be just fine without it. But if we stop producing food, if we stop, if we stop helping people through, like the police officer or the firefighter or the medical teams, if doctors suddenly just disappear, you're screwed. You're going to have a lot more problems with that. So this doesn't 100% tie into the fear of missing out, but I think there is this inherent almost ignorance when it comes to it. And we have to realize that a lot of the time, what we're fearing we might miss out on isn't really worth it. This is why I made the relation. This is why I gave you this comparison, because this influencer lady, And the person who consumes her content, they could both do without. They could both do without one another. In fact, one of the best things I ever heard is, and this relates to that video I did about mental masturbation, is that sometimes you have to stop consuming the content because you've already consumed too much of it. It's like, let's say you were endlessly studying, because I can give you a really, really dumb example and say, pronunciation of the word water. You could learn that every day for 12 hours for several years and still not be happy with the way that you pronounce water. Is it sensible to do that? Probably not. So at some point, you just have to make a cut. So for me, FOMO, the fear of missing out, I do see it in dating realizations. I do see it in maybe job opportunities. Maybe there's a job that you thought you were going to be able to get. There's always this fear that we're not going to use all of our life, all of the years that we have efficiently and get to where we want to be. But ultimately, I think where I want to draw the line is with Instagram. It's with social media. It's with this consumption, this consumerism that we've bred into our brains, where we feel like we have to be, every day, every hour, sometimes every, couple of minutes, we just have to check it. Just, is there something new? Is there a new story I can watch, And realize that we're not missing out on anything. And that's precisely why I actually decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to start living life with 2 phones. Because I'm actually not disciplined enough to have a phone and not look at Instagram and not look at Tinder and not look at Facebook messages and not look at Discord. And, we have all these apps that we constantly open periodically, essentially, just to try to see if there's something new from our favorite content creator. Is there something new from our crush? Is there something new from our ex? Is there something new from, our best friend? We're constantly trying to be up to date. And I don't have the discipline to have the app on my phone and not open it, to have the phone present in the room and not pick it up. So what I decided to do is to have 2 devices. One device which is exclusively for texting and calling and maybe emails, and one device that is exclusively for the other things. So essentially I can take that phone and just chuck it across the room, hide it somewhere, and I have no desire to use it. So I'll be starting this experiment probably within the next week, and I'll let you know after about a month if this has worked for me, if it's something that functions, because I notice that I get distracted very easily. And these distractions cause a lot of time to get back into the focus of things. In my podcast with Donnie, we actually spoke about this, the issue of how you get detached from your deep work state. When you're in a deep work state and something distracts you, like a DM or a message, it actually takes up to 23 minutes to get back into that same deep work state. So if you think about how many distractions you have over the course of, let's say, 8 hours that you're working, you'll realize you're throwing away probably a good half of that just because you're not focused and you're not getting the maximum out of your work done. I want to wrap up the idea of the fear of missing out with the simple answer that you're not missing out, that you're never missing out. If you were to live on a deserted island with no people there, obviously you would be missing out, but you'd only be missing out because you're aware of the fact that you're missing out. So in that context, you're always going to be missing out, because right now you could be the person who is right next to Elon Musk building the next rocket who's going to go to Mars. You could be that person. But it could also be the kid that's starving in Africa with, a sick mother and an inability to really go anywhere. This goes back to those determinants, where, to whom, in what way, and what genetic material you're born into. You have to understand that the fear of missing out stems from this modernistic viewpoint, which shows us what we're supposedly missing out on. What fancy clothes, what amazing new video game, what crazy new music genre, and what parties and all the alcohol and drugs and all this. It's hedonism. Hedonism is what we're inherently feeling like we're missing out on. My life would be so much better if I was sitting in the Bahamas on a yacht with 20 women around me and a cigar in my mouth. But the reality is that if you had all those things, you'd still be missing out. And ironically, you might be missing out having the life you currently live. When you're a kid, you want to be famous. When you're a kid, you want to be the best football player. You want to be a rock star. You want to be the best actor. I think a lot of the people who went down that road and actually got to those achievements, I think what they secretly want and what they secretly have actually a fear of and they have missed out on is a regular life. And so I think that thinking about the fear of missing out too much is actually a zero-sum game. I think it's just a loss-loss scenario, because right now I would want to be somewhere else. But if I was somewhere else, I'd realistically want to be where I am today. And I will wrap this back to the beginning of this video when I said the unicorn, the one. You know, it's ironic because when you're in a relationship, and I was in this position where I was dating somebody that was genuinely head over heels for, really appreciate this individual, love them with all my heart. And in some way, I wasn't happy. Some part of me wanted to be single and have all the women in the world and just party and travel. And then when I was in that second state, when actually I was single and I was able to travel, I was able to do whatever I wanted that person back. So I think that's the reality, is that we're always going to have the fear, and therefore there's no point stressing out over it. Just let it slip. I think it's part of our lives. I think dwelling too much into it will just make you a bitter, sad person. Enjoy what you have, create opportunities for yourself, live your life to the fullest, and enjoy. Take care. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye. Cheerio.